Tokyo, Shibuya. This crossing is probably one of the most famous spots in the world. Up to 15,000 people cross it at peak times. But the district does not only attract hipsters and tourists with shopping malls and karaoke bars. Japan's startup scene also has its epicentre here. And there is hardly anyone who knows the ecosystem better than Alex Odajima, one of the founders of the startup and innovation hub EdgeOf.
We are based in Tokyo, Shibuya, which is one of the hotspots of startup here. This is where Google or the big IT companies are based. It's also the place where the VCs and CVCs are placed. And also because we are having a lot of new buildings getting built, old buildings are getting empty, which is giving space for early startups to be there because there are a lot of co-working space getting created. The mayor of the Shibuya city is a very innovative person who is really putting the importance on diversity, innovation, startups. So we are very well supported by the local government too. We are supporting different embassies when they bring delegation of startups to explain how those startups could fit to the Japanese market. Because it's a very weird, very unique culture country here. So try to explain what would be the legal challenges, how the investments are done here for foreign companies, what kind of business partners they could meet, but how they should communicate with. Expectation control, because Japanese people tend to create fake expectation. They are very polite, so they'll make you feel like your product is great, but nothing will actually happen after the meeting. So this is something which happens quite a lot with startups. According to the Ministry of Economy, there are 10,000 startups in Japan, which I'm not very sure about it. This is what they announced officially, so yeah. However, when you talk with startup people in Japan and ask to give them some names of interesting startups, you'll probably hear 100 to 200 companies. All the others are startups, but trying to do some new things, but most of the time they ended up developing application for large corporations. In terms of unicorns, we only have one unicorn in Japan. There's Mercari, and they are providing C2C vending platform on mobile. So it's a huge success in Japan. They are trying very hard to go outside, but not succeeding much. One of the characteristics of the Japanese startup ecosystem is that the Japanese culture, the expectation of customers are so unique that if you try to optimize your product for Japan, it won't work outside. It's very difficult for a Japanese to challenge something due to this cultural background who do not support people who challenge. So young people, their vision has been that you should be hired in a big company and stay there for your life to have a sustainable, peaceful life. Stability is probably the biggest value for Japanese people. So it's completely against the culture and mindset of startups. So until I'd say 5-6 years ago, it was extremely difficult to find talent in startups. A good and a bad thing is that there are so many huge corporations who are failing lately. So the myth of being hired in a large corporation is not really true anymore. Young generation is now facing this reality and say, okay, so it's not about being a big corporation, it's about having skill set yourself, improve yourself, try to be able to survive, right? And the other thing is there are a lot of young generation who prefer to do what they like than simply earning money. And large corporation in Japan would treat you like a part of a big machine. So they will give you a mission, no question, you do what you've been asked to do. It's extremely difficult to find English-speaking talent in Japan wishing to go to startups because it's a very rare talent. So they could get hired in the big corporation with a quite high salary. Most of people graduating from big school are going to big companies. There's more people who came from another company to the startup than directly joining us from graduation. I'm in the startup ecosystem for more than 12 years, I think. But at the beginning, when I was working with those startups, it was a very niche thing that no one have ever heard of it. Even Google was not that famous at that time, right? But now this 5-6 years, people are using startup product on a daily basis, like Line, the messaging app. Those startup services became part of their life. So be part of those startup company is not some crazy thing anymore.